In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel.
And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men."
And he had compassion on them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things.
"Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest."
And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him.
Take heart, I have overcome the world.
And rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm.
He saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them, and healed their sick.
Do you want to be healed?
I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst.
And all were astonished at the majesty of God.
Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them.
I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
It is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
He is not here, for he has risen, as he said.
Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always, to the end of the age.
One important note for you to notice, a notice for you to notice. I felt like that was a quote from a TV series. The annual business meeting, which is why membership is important. We're electing some new board members, and so only members of the church can vote for those board members. Anybody can come to the annual business meeting. We'll be talking about the finances from last year, some staff stuff that we're going to be announcing here in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be voting on our new board members. And so that's why it's important. And that business meeting is happening on the first Sunday in March. It'll be in the evening. It'll be here, and so you will start to see notices on that coming out in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be in John chapter 9 today. If you want to turn to that, or you can follow along on the screen, it will be there on the screen. We're not going to start to read it just yet, but as we get ready to get into this sermon today, let me just give you a point of warning, okay? Two things. This message today is going to feel incomplete and unfinished when we're done. And it's supposed to, because it's not going to be done. This is going to be a two-part message. And so we'll finish part 2 next week. And then the second maybe kind of point of clarification and potential warning is that today's teaching is going to be a difficult one. There's no other way to say it other than we're going to talk about things today that some of you may find extremely uncomfortable. I recognize as we get into it, some of you may find it so uncomfortable that you don't want to sit in here anymore. Totally okay. You can walk out and you can go hang out in the foyer. If you need an elder or somebody to come talk with you or pray with you, we'll have somebody available for that. We've got Aaron is sitting on an edge, and we've got Glenn sitting on an edge, and so our team will be aware of that, okay? But it's not a warning. It's not like scandalous or anything like that, but we're going to talk about a difficult topic today. And so I just want to prepare your hearts for where we're headed, because we're going to look at one of the miracles in the New Testament, especially in the book of John, that leaves me with some of the most and biggest questions that I have walking out of a miracle, and questions that are still unanswered today, even after I've studied this extensively for this week and have read over it several times. I mean, I've probably read the book of John 150 times during my walk as a believer. It's one of my favorite gospels, and the reason why is that the other gospels tells us what Jesus did. The book of John, the Gospel of John, tells us who Jesus is. I think it's so important and so valuable that actually in October of this year, we're going to start a church-wide devotion on the book of John that I just finished writing this last week, and we're going to print it up for anybody that wants it. And it's going to be a 178-day devotion that's going to take us from the beginning of October all the way through the holiday season into Easter of 2027. And the reason that it's important is because it tells us who Jesus is, not simply what he does. As we begin our reading in John chapter 9, we see it says this: as he passed by, he's just walking by this location, he sees a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? We talked a little bit about this a few weeks ago. In verse 3, Jesus answered and says that it was not this man's sin or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. Verse 5, for as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. And having said these things, he spit on the ground and made mud with saliva. Then he anointed the man's eyes with mud and said to him, go and wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Anybody familiar with the author C.S. Lewis? Okay. Man, I forgot to have you guys stand while we read that today. I apologize. I see everybody looking at me with like, what's going on? Normally we stand. My apologies. C.S. Lewis, what is he most famous for? Chronicles of Narnia, right? Less famous for another book that he wrote that is pretty impactful for what we're going to be talking about today. That book is called The Problem of Pain. Anybody read that book? A lot less people. The Problem of Pain is probably the seminal work on the issue of pain and its importance in the human life, in the human realm, in the human world. C.S. Lewis says this in the book: God whispers to us in our pleasures. He speaks in our conscience, but he shouts to us in our pains. Pain is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. But here's the thing, and we can all agree, we don't like pain. Pain is uncomfortable. We're conditioned that pain is bad or evil, and don't get me wrong, I totally know and understand that there are people in this room watching online. I have friends who deal with chronic pain issues, and they would give anything to have just 1 hour with no pain. But as we dive into this miracle today, we need to set a baseline, and it's this: pain in and of itself is not bad. Uncontrolled pain is bad, but pain in and of itself is not something that's evil. Pain is actually the body's warning system that something isn't right. For example, any husbands, you get wrangled into going on long walks with your wife in the middle of the afternoon or the evening? I'm the only one. Thanks for leaving me hanging, fellas. Becky's not even here today, but we like to go to the gym, but sometimes we live really far away from the gym, and so it's like a 20-minute drive to get in, and let's be honest, sometimes I go in the morning and work out without her, and then she doesn't want to drive back in, and she's like, let's go for a walk around the neighborhood. It's 1.6 miles. Got some ups and we got some downs, and we go on this walk, and we do it regularly. Sometimes, depending on how we feel, we go the easy route, and that's mostly downhill. Sometimes we go on the harder route, which the finish of the walk is like this uphill that's like an incline of like 15. I don't know who designed this road or this hill, but I wouldn't have done it that way. A couple of days ago, we were walking around the path that we were going on, and for the sake of it, we're just walking, and I always stand on the outside in the road, so if a car comes, I can push Becky out of the way. I won't make that joke. And we're walking, and I notice like she starts to kick her foot a little bit out. She's kicking her foot out a little bit. Dude, you're weirding me out. What are you doing? And we get about half a mile in, and she's like, God, my foot hurts. I'm like, okay, her foot hurts. Maybe she'll cut the walk short, and we can go home, because I already worked out today. I'm exhausted. And we get about a mile into our 1.6 mile walk, and we've gone the long way. So we've got the uphill finish, right? We've got the hard route coming. And she's like, she stops, and she grabs my shoulder, and I can't balance that well, but she takes her shoe off, and she's got a pebble in her shoe that she's been walking a mile with. At first, she unconsciously knew that something wasn't right. Has anybody ever had a pebble in your shoe or sand in your flip-flop at the beach if you're a crazy person and like going to the ocean and the beach? Like, you know something's not right. But we have a tendency to ignore it, right? The longer you ignore it, the more your foot and your body screams, something's not right. And if you're thick-headed like me, you just kind of move your foot around and you work the pebble so it's in between your toes. And you just keep walking. Because let's be honest, it's easier to walk with the pebble in my shoe than it is to bend down and untie my shoe and take my shoe off at this age. My hamstrings can't do it that much. But pain is your body's warning system to say something's not right. You've got something, you've got an object in your shoe, and if you keep walking with this object in your shoe, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. And what started out as a very small pebble can lead to, if ignored, an inability to walk for days, sometimes weeks on end, because it's bruised the bottom of your foot. Anybody that's experienced knows exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the problem, though. We've only been talking about physical pain. We take, in our humanity and our humanness, we take the way that we feel about physical pain and we apply it as a filter to lay over any kind of difficulty that we might experience in life. Like if something isn't easy, then it must be bad. Or if life isn't going the way that I want it to go, then, man, the enemy is out to get me. Like, man, I didn't make it. I didn't get to sell, and just Satan's obstructing me. Listen, Satan can only be at one place at one time. He's not an infinite being, and I promise you, he does not care if you make it to the store in time to get that sell price on something. He's got other things that he's worried about. Every bad thing in life that happens to us is not the enemy fighting against you. It may be a product of a broken world, but certainly not everything that we go through is bad. Now, I should say this as a point of clarification. There are people, you are in it right now, and you're going through a difficult situation or circumstance because of someone else's sinful choice. That is not God. It is the product of a broken and sinful world. He doesn't encourage people. He's not doing that to make someone sin, to make it hard for you or something like that. Can and will he redeem it? Absolutely he can and he will. But the genesis of it is not from the Father. It is from a sinful person making a sinful choice. And if that's you, man, let me know that I am praying for you. Maybe that's you, and the result of it is because of something that happened in a church. I'm sorry that happened to you. I want this to be a place of healing for all of those people. I want this to be a place where people can come in and sit down and we can talk about hard things and we can walk out from this place encouraged. Jesus is walking by, a man blind since birth, and his disciple says, whose fault is it? Is it his fault or is it his parents' fault? And Jesus says, neither. And it's neither one of their faults. It's so that God's glory could be displayed in this situation. And what that tells us and what that teaches us is this, that sometimes our brokenness, that thing that we feel like defines us the most, is the conduit that God moves through. That struggle, that thing that you may feel like is the worst thing that you've ever gone through or ever had to endure, might be the very thing that God moves through and uses to make a difference in your life or potentially in the lives of other people. Even that thing that you might be going through that's the result of someone else's sinful choice. God will always use life's situations, the difficulties of this world that we face, to shape and mold us. We read this in Scripture. We know that God works all things together for the good of those who what? Love Him. Whatever it is, good, bad, indifferent. I talk about I got a lot of things I'm focusing on right now. One of the things that I'm really focusing on is having patience. Now, if you've come to Middleton Grace for any amount of time, you know that the place that I struggle with patience the most is when I'm sitting behind somebody that's waiting to turn left. It's the worst thing in the world. Like, you could have gone. I just sit there and I do that out loud. You could have gone. You could have gone. You could have gone. You want to know? You want to know what I've experienced in like the last 2 weeks since I've been focusing on this? Every place I go, especially when you head to Nampa, not on the highway, every road is closed for construction. Is there anything worse in the world when you need patience than to have to sit through construction? It's the worst. Last night, coming home from working out with Savannah, we're sitting in front of Tractor Supply. We're 35 cars deep into a 70-car backup. There was an accident. And I'm like, Savannah, just pull a Yui. And she's like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm like, they're not letting anybody by. Pull a Yui. And she's like, Dad, I don't want to do it. I feel really uncomfortable. And like, literally, you can see traffic has stopped both ways. Nobody is coming. Just turn left and let's go. She goes, do you want to get in the driver's seat and you can do it? I wish that I could sit here today and tell you that we sat in that traffic jam, but we didn't. I made my 17, 18-year-old daughter get out of the car so I could get in the driver's seat so I could pull a U-turn because I was tired of waiting. I was so disgusted with waiting for potentially 5 minutes because the accident cleared before we even got around the block to the high school. I could see the cars driving. I didn't say that to her last night. And so I want to focus on being patient. So what does God do? He puts me in situations that require patience. You want to be more disciplined, and God's going to put you in positions that require you to be more disciplined. But the problem is, we like to complain and cry about it when we get put in these situations. He's doing something. But man, we get so caught up in our own mess that we miss what he's doing. Like, we get so caught up in focusing on us that we think that it's all about us. But man, what we've got to understand when we read this, like in verse 3, like we got to understand our difficult times aren't always just about us. But verse 3, Jesus answered, it was not this man that sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. This man, born blind, went through what he went through so that God might display the wonders of his miracles through him. That thing that you're facing right now, it might not be for you. It might be 10 years from now when you can speak into a young man or a young husband that's going through it, and you can go, man, I know exactly what you're going through because I went through it 10 years ago. The couple that's sitting in this room, the man, you feel like your marriage is on the brink, but you're fighting tooth and nail to save it. It may not just be for you that you come through it, and I believe that God will bring you through it. It could be for the young couple 15 years from now that's facing the same thing, that you get to sit down across the table and you get to go, man, I know exactly where you are because I was right there. The personal struggles, Kenny, I see you shaking your head. We've had this conversation, bro. That stuff that you go through is not for him. It's for somebody else. My addiction, very public addiction to tobacco that I've overcome, it's not just for me, it's for the kid that's dealing with it. The way that I make it through is not just so I can get through, but so I have tools and tips and techniques that I can give to the next generation that might be struggling with it. Jesse, the stuff that you went through wasn't just for you. It was for me so that when I was going through it, I could text him and go, tell me it's not worth it. And without fail, less than a minute later, it's not worth it. I'm praying for you. That difficult thing that God is bringing you through, sometimes it's the result of sin. Sometimes it's God doing it in you. He may put you in the difficult situation. It's not always just for you. It's for other people as well. The very brokenness that defined this man was the very thing that God used to transform his life and make a difference in the lives of other people. We're just mining verse 3. We're going to go right back to it. And Jesus answered, it was not this man that sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. Listen, when I look at that, when I read that, what I understand is this, that his ways always don't make sense to me. Sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. Sometimes things happen, and I'm just trying to go, what's going on, God? Why are you doing this thing? It doesn't make sense. When I read this miracle, like two things come to mind. I got two serious questions that I start to think about when I read this miracle. This is one of those things where, man, you got to start to slow down as you read. Question number one is this. It's not in your sermon guide. You could write this down if you want to. Maybe it means something to you. Maybe it doesn't. But the first question I have is this. Why did God make this guy wait so long? Anybody else feel like you're just sitting in it for years on end going, God, when are you going to answer? Do you want the answer why God made him wait so long? I don't know. It doesn't seem fair to me. This guy was blind from birth, simply so God could perform a miracle in his life so that other people could see. It doesn't seem fair to me. But here's the thing with fair. It only makes sense if you know the whole story. And listen, we don't know the whole story. We're still this side of heaven. We don't know it all yet. The second question that comes to my mind when I read this, like when details, we talked about this last week, when details are put into miracles, it should make you stop and ask why. Why mud? Why does Jesus spit into the ground, bend over, make mud? I see the disgust on some of your faces. And slap it on the guy's eyes. He's already blind. And then tell him, hey, go walk to this pool and wash it off. Why do that? I think it's a valid question to ask. I think that there are potentially two reasons why. The first is this, the theology of creation. By using dirt, dust, and spit, the moisture, Jesus was symbolically reenacting the creation of man. Remember Genesis 2:7, it says, then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature. He wasn't just fixing the man's eye, he was recreating it. And then the second reason to use the mud was this Sabbath conflict. The Pharisees would have considered making mud, the practice of moving the moisture, the kneading of the dirt and the saliva together, as work, and under Sabbath law, it would have been against the rules. And so Jesus, through his works, is challenging their words, and he is providing evidence that he is Lord of the Sabbath. Now, we're going to get more into this aspect next week during part 2. But for now, let it suffice to say that Jesus was always intentional in what he did. What's not happening is Jesus isn't trying to figure out the coolest way to heal this guy. Jesus isn't trying to impress his followers or the religious leaders of the day. He wasn't even doing it because he felt like doing it that way. He did it, but for a very specific reason. As the worship team comes out to the stage, I want us to notice the last thing that we learn from this section of the miracle. Verses 6 and verses 7, it says, having said these things, he spit on the ground and he made mud with the saliva, and then he anointed the man's eyes with mud, and he said, go wash in the pool. And so he went and washed, and he came back seeing. I want you to notice the order of events. First, Jesus spits into the ground. Second, he makes some mud. Third, he anoints the eyes. Fourth, he tells him to go wash. When did the healing happen? It only happened, the miracle, the man's miracle, only happened when he was obedient to what Jesus said to him. I wonder, how many of us are sitting in this room waiting for a miracle, and God is waiting for obedience?